Have you ever thought to yourself, how are you here right now? How did you get here? For these answers, we look to the skies. In the very beginning, when the Big Bang first happened, the only two elements that were present was nitrogen and helium. And these were the building blocks of all life that we know. The whole life cycle of a star starts out in what's called a nebula cloud, and this is where you get these huge, beautiful. I'm sure you've seen in all the pictures. The big, they're beautiful, they're filled with beautiful colors, and basically, when all these big floating masses of like all these particles and elements come together, what happens is the closer the particles get, the more heat you will start to get, and eventually that heat is going to start producing gravity, and it's going to start turning, it's going to start coming in onto itself, and it's going to start crushing in the middle because the gravity is getting so intense with the heat. And after that stage, you're going to enter the protostar phase, and that is when it's basically a younger star, and it's still in the nursery. It's still in the nurseries, like inside the nebula cloud. So it'll be a little ball in there just spinning, and it'll be around all the clouds. So after that phase happens, we enter the T-Tauri stage, and that is when it starts to have its own gravitational field. And what it will do, and it'll start to come out like this, and it'll blow away all of the dust. It'll blow it all the way out of its orbit, and it won't absorb any more past that point. After that stage, we enter the main sequence, and this is basically where the star spends most of its life. And what it's doing, it's basically burning off the nitrogen and just doing the same functions that a star would always do. It spends most of its life there. During that stage is what it does. But then when it starts to die, we enter the stage called the red giant. And what happens here is it'll stop burning nitrogen and it'll start burning helium. So when this happens, the star will start to grow immensely, like hundreds and thousands of times bigger than what it previously was. And after it burns up all the helium, the fusion inside the star, it's so hot there, it'll start fusing all the elements together. And basically, that's how we got the whole periodic table. That is how, because the stars would fuse it together, and that's how it all happens. The bigger the star, the more elements that will fuse together inside of its core. And once it has burned through all the elements, all the fuel that it has left, what it'll do, it'll explode into one of the most giant explosions in the whole universe called a supernova. But after this, it does have a few options of where it could go. It could either be a brown dwarf, a white dwarf, it could be a neutron star, a pulsar, or if it's giant enough, it could be possibly a black hole. And the more we know about the universe, the better or the closer we are to finding out the mysteries of the universe. And for the conclusion, so all the stars have basically created everything, and there's 7 main cycles to the star's life. First, we start out as the nebula cloud, and that's when the cloud is just floating in the air, and it'll start producing gravity and it'll start to spin faster. And then we have the protostar, which is a younger star, and that's when it just came together and it's still in the molecular cloud. And then we'll enter the T-Tauri phase. That's when it'll blow away all the particles so you can actually finally see the star. And then you get the red giant where it stops burning the nitrogen and it goes to helium, and it'll start to expand and engulf all in around it. And then after this one, it'll start fusing the heavier elements. And then after it's fused all it can, it will end in a supernova. And after that, the star is gone.